Sweet. Nice. We have an evening cast.
We did. I had a gig.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was hard. I didn't play very well.
No, well, you were still learning some of the songs today, right?
Yeah. So it's this thing. I don't know if we've talked about it. It's called the Hideaway Jam. It's a Monday night jam in Austin. And unlike other jams...
Yeah, you've talked about this.
Yeah. Singers sign up early in the week before with a list of songs, and then musicians sign up to play those songs. So I was in the house band. So any spot that didn't get filled, I had to fill. And so the problem with being in the house band is you don't really know what it is you have to learn until day of, because people are signing up. And then about, Sunday or Monday, you get a sense for, okay, nobody's signing up for these songs. I got to learn all these songs.
Ugh. God.
And for some reason, people picked really hard songs this week.
Huh. Like what?
One was a song called Molasses by Hiatus Coyote. It was it's some like neo-soul, like jazz thing.
God.
And it was just extremely difficult. It took me 2 hours today just to transcribe it because it's all like crazy, like major 9, sharp 11 kind of chords.
God. Does this pay?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good.
But it was just like, started listening to it. I was like, is this really, we're allowing this at the jam? And the guy was like, yeah, because there's a really good drummer who signed up for it. Otherwise, I would have vetoed it. It was like, well, I still think it's too hard. Mm-hmm. And that song was nearly a train wreck.
Really?
It was just way too hard for a jam.
Was the drummer good?
The drummer's good. Everybody's good. It wasn't even that. It's just like some songs, like, I don't know, like a Tool song would be terrible for a jam. You have to practice it. There's no way you can just get together and do it.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. No. I mean, that sounds stressful and frustrating, honestly.
But somebody did Carry On My Wayward Son, and I didn't have to learn it, but the people who signed up for it did an amazing job. They knocked it out of the park.
Oh, yeah? Oh,
nice.
Like,
wow.
That's good.
That's a cool song to hear done well.
Yeah. No. They have like the harmonies too.
Yeah, they did harmonies. One guy was playing keys and guitar. He was the rhythm guitar player was also doing keys to do the keys part.
Do these people know each other?
Yeah, they're married.
Oh, okay. Well, that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's a cool idea for a jam, but yeah, that's a lot of work. So, and then you were like breaking things down, so I guess you do sound for it too?
Yeah. The house band is in charge of it, and so like if I'm doing it, the bass player usually does sound, but he wasn't available either, and so I was just doing sound too.
Nice.
Doing sound and playing is kind of not fun.
No. It sucks.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's cool. So we're doing a late cast though because of that, and also an early cast.
Right.
Though I don't know, I'll probably edit this tomorrow and push it out, but
cool.
I guess I have till Wednesday.
Right. You better get it in by Wednesday.
Yeah.
Well, how'd the last one do? I haven't checked.
I did okay. But yeah, it's interesting because, like, I guess I hadn't even realized that you were posting on Reddit.
Yeah. Did you check out the Reddit?
Brief. Actually, no, I did. I don't think I got a chance to check out the Reddit this time. Anything good?
I mean, it was okay.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I was going to say is, interestingly, this has not been as boosted by Reddit as the other ones.
Right. It's not very controversial so far.
Which is also kind of interesting because, as we've already said, so we're finishing up Untimely Meditations, or as some translations put it, unfashionable meditations. What was yours?
I think mine is Untimely Meditations, but when I looked up different translations, there were some funny ones.
Yeah, but it's got a few names, but it should be provocative because, right.
Well, it was like inconvenient was one of them, right?
What do you mean?
One of the translations was inconvenient rather than untimely.
Oh, yes. I think you're right.
Like an inconvenient truth, like Al Gore.
Yeah. Yes, I think that it was Inconvenient Meditations or something like that. Yeah.
Right.
Or, but yeah, no, I mean, they were inconvenient for 1874, I suppose.
Right.
But that being said, so a lot of the, a lot of that beginning was to say that Antushka was busy this week, so didn't get a chance to read. Or should I not? Should I
you're
not
telling
say?
on me, huh?
Okay, no, here I'll cut this. Actually, you're right.
You don't have to cut it. It's fine.
No, but you're right. There's no need.
I shouldn't
to let them
pretend
know.
that I read it. I didn't do any reading this week. Zero. Zip. Nil.
Okay, yeah.
It's fine.
Okay, well then I won't cut it. I
I'll
don't
keep
know what
saying
I'll
it
do.
throughout the episode, so if you're going to cut it, you're going to have to find it.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, well, part of that's just because you're busy, and which is why we were talking about all that music stuff at the beginning, among other reasons. But what am I saying? I got to take that out now.
What are the
too.
other reasons?
Dude, I got a lot of editing to do now. Jesus, I'm just making more work for myself. Okay, but the point is that it was a lot of what he was writing about. Actually, I do think that you could kind of put it onto today. You know, in terms of what his critique of the educational system, the university system, and all of that, I think, are very much still issues today, and maybe more so issues. Right. So it should be a little provocative, but I think everybody kind of agrees too. So I would say the big crux of this. So we just finished up Shopenhaur as educator, which was like his third essay in Untimely Meditations. You know, a big thing that he's saying is he's basically talking about how the Prussian educational system and university system is just basically making automatons that they're only good at kind of intaking and ingesting, intaking information, memorizing dates and stuff, but they're not really synthesizing anything new. So the big thing he's talking about in this whole essay is culture, as we kind of touched on last time.
Right.
And it's like it's culture's prerogative to bring forth genius. And bringing forth genius is kind of like the big, it seems like, to do that Nietzsche puts the purpose of life almost as, and the purpose of civilization is to culture geniuses. And so, yeah, I mean, you can look at a lot of, I would say, what's going on today. It's the same thing. It's like a lot of the university, it's just about memorization. You know, he talks about how you get a lot of people who basically will just venerate their teachers and authority and don't really want to think outside the box and just want to follow things. And I mean, I certainly see this in when I was in university. It's like people almost don't know what to do when you're not given an assignment with clear boundaries anymore. Right. It's like they freak out. It's like, there's not a syllabus for this class? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
Well, I mean, there's the other problem of there's this weird thought that grades are crucially important. And so, I mean, in a weird sense, it makes sense that the students are acting defensively in that way. Given sort of what they're told the purpose of what they're doing there is.
Right. Yeah, and so this was even something else that Nietzsche talked about, which was how you should almost, like examinations were killing philosophy. Because like a lot of what he's talking about is specific to philosophy either, and how, you know, all of the, I guess what he calls the university philosophers are crappy, basically, and they're making crappy new philosophers. And this is why he's talking about Shopenhaur, because Shopenhaur is everything that these university philosophers aren't. He's isolated, he's hated by his peers. It's like, you know, he was almost saying once you are on a faculty position, you almost can't be a philosopher anymore because now truth isn't the highest thing. It's the position, it's the state, or it's whatever it is. So I would actually think you would have liked this a lot because he was going after the state a lot. And,
Yes.
Yeah, and the Gestalt. No.
What's interesting is what did I hear recently? I heard that there was some survey done about people who are unwilling to speak the truth if it has social ramifications, and the higher up the academic ladder, the less willing people are to speak the truth.
Right.
And so people who don't even have college degrees are the most willing.
Yes.
And people with PhDs are almost completely unwilling.
Yes. Yeah. It's because it becomes this whole game of like who can be smarter and say the right thing.
Right.
You know.
But it's a weird thing to say who can be smarter if you're not willing to say what you think is true.
Well, I don't know, because this is to say that being smart is saying what you think is true.
Yeah. Well, what from your perspective is Nietzsche's conception of genius? The genius that society is trying to cultivate, or civilization is trying to cultivate.
Well, I think it's just exceptionalism.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just whatever you can think of, and thinking outside of the box-ism, you know, because, I mean, this is what he keeps saying, is it's like the educational system they have is going to make people who aren't ready to tackle the complexity of life because they've been sort of fed this very, there was no critical thinking, I guess, required. It was just rote memorization and sort of, what do you call it? Regurgitation. So I guess, sorry, so your question was, how would he conceptualize?
What is genius to Nietzsche?
Yeah. I mean, I think like Beethoven, Wagner, yeah, I mean, Liszt even.
Right.
Though
and what's so great about them?
You tell me, Mr. Musician.
Well, no. I'm saying kind of like from Nietzsche's perspective, why is he saying these people are so great?
Oh, because, and Schopenhauer, because they defied societal norms and they sort of thought outside the box.
What's interesting about the examples of Beethoven and Wagner, and I don't know about Schopenhauer because I don't know philosophy enough to know how outside the box he was or wasn't. Beethoven and Wagner are kind of outside the box and kind of way in the box. Like they're still writing music essentially as it's been done. They're sort of very radical within a very narrow domain.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that, especially Wagner, who I would say became the establishment because he became so... Right. And sort of Beethoven, too. But at least Beethoven had that whole... Yeah, I mean, it's like his big revolutionary thing.
John Cage's ideas are way more...
No, I agree.
Outside the box.
I was just about to say the biggest... In some ways, one of the biggest revolutionary things about Beethoven was that he had 5 movements in a symphony, right? It's like, what a rebel.
It's funny, and so I can understand where, to people who have only ever thought of 4 movements, it's like crazy, It's like when people talk about somebody putting out, a 9-minute pop song, and they go, that's insane. And it's like, I don't know, it's a few more minutes. Whatever.
But it's more than that, obviously, with Beethoven, because it's like he had a lot of hits. I mean, even today, people still will listen to Moonlight Sonata and For Elise. Those are just good songs,
Right.
And honestly, I feel like you can't say that about a lot like Brahms.
What about the lullaby?
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yes, maybe that's it.
Right, but I would say, actually, for anybody from the 1800s to have a melody that everyone knows, that's pretty good.
Yes.
Like Brahms beats
completely.
Liszt and Schumann and Schubert and all those people.
Yes, no, I agree with
Beethoven and Brahms have got it.
No, that's, you know what? your point is well taken. It's just, I guess I mean that Beethoven has more hits.
Yes, Beethoven definitely has more hits. Mozart's got a lot of hits.
Yeah, Mozart. Yeah, in terms of melodies that you could like sing, like the Magic Flute. People
Yeah,
like
Mozart's
that.
probably got like 2 or 3 that everyone knows. Mm-hmm. Beethoven has like 5.
Yeah,
right. That he's got Ode to Joy for Elise,
Ode to Joy,
Moonlight Sonata.
Like,
he's got 4.
You take the cake at Ode to Joy, man. I mean, come on, that's such a great. Although I don't know if he actually came up with that melody. Now that I think about it, I think it might have been
I don't think so. I think it was a German song.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But we know it because of him.
Yes, true. No, yeah, that's good. And Bach, I mean, Bach's the same way. Like Jesus, Joy of Man Desires. Like you cannot know, or Bourrée in E minor. Hell, I mean, come on.
It's true. Although fewer people know that than I think. I mean, because of Tenacious D, more people.
I was going to say Tenacious D brought it back because before that it was Jethro Tull for the Boomers.
Oh, yeah.
The Boomers knew it. Yes, exactly. Every generation has somebody. But that's what makes a good song, I guess, right? So this is the genius that, I guess, although, Nietzsche doesn't really talk about Bach, now that I think about it. I feel like Bach had a revival, though, didn't he?
Yeah. The revival had already happened by the time Nietzsche was writing, but...
Okay. Well, he's had multiple, I'm sure.
Right. Wagner, nobody knows any melodies by Wagner.
Da-da-da-da. Or the cry, the Flight of the Valkyrie.
Oh, you're right. Of course.
That would be the one. Yeah.
That one they definitely know. Yes. And then, if you like classical music, you probably know Tristan and Isolde. Stuff like that.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was a nice tangent.
Right.
It was. I'm not being sarcastic.
Well, I have to do something if I haven't read the material.
No, it's true. That was good, though. I like that.
Let's talk about what I kind of know.
Yeah, no, that was good. Well, and I kind of brought that one point up because I wanted to hesitate on it for a second, which was, so I guess this idea that that culture's chief prerogative is genius cultivation. Do you believe in that? Or do you believe
I'm thinking about it now because going back to kind of what I was saying, the kind of probing about what genius is, because Beethoven is outside the box, but he's not that far outside the box. He's still writing for a normal orchestra. He's still writing triads. He's writing notes on paper. It kind of goes through time. Like he's not pushing the entire system over and setting it on fire. He's just tinkering with it. And that's seen as genius. So now I'm thinking maybe what civilization is doing is it's setting up boundaries, like you're saying, where genius can be cultivated. Because I would say that, like my example before, John Cage is way more radical, but in a way less genius.
Mm-hmm.
His use of it... So Beethoven's given the materials by civilization, and his use of those materials is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
John Cage is rejecting the materials, which is an interesting idea, something that nobody's thought about. What about, instead of playing the keys on the piano, we flip the piano upside down and, roll the wheels or something goofy like that. And, nobody's thought of it, so people go like, whoa, that's weird. Mm-hmm. But he's not using the materials in a masterful way or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, exactly, I guess. I think I basically agree with you because he still is using materials, obviously, but that's why I like that you kind of addendum it. Because at first you were saying it's as if he wasn't using the materials.
Well, he's trying to get out. He's trying to get out of the materials. He's trying to figure out what the boundaries are and get past them.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean,
they're both doing that in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Because Beethoven's, what are the boundaries? How much, I guess, people who haven't studied music theory, this doesn't mean anything to them, but how much can I make a melody not a melody kind of a thing, and have it still be amazing?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because you have, 4 minutes and 33 seconds or 31 seconds.
Right. Well, I was thinking of Beethoven's Third Symphony, where the melody is just an arpeggio. Which is like, it was very weird. There's no stepwise motion. It's just up and down a chord.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never thought about that.
Anyway, it's...
Well, yeah.
So I guess that's my question, is how civilization is there to cultivate genius. I guess these ideas are very difficult for me to pin down.
Well, this is actually a good point, because I think this gets at actually what Nietzsche's trying to say is that this is why you need to teach critical thinking to people, because it's like when we're talking in the realm of the humanities,
right,
which I guess he even thought that you shouldn't necessarily teach to young people, because you need to imbue them with the sort of the ability to understand these complex concepts first.
I love it. I have a whole thing. I don't think you need any humanities at all in grade school.
Yeah, no, I think he's about history and sort of basically things that you have to memorize early on, foundational stuff.
So he says you should or shouldn't do that.
You should, but also, yes, you should, but I think more focus on arithmetic and stuff. But yeah, and I think basically he wouldn't teach the humanities at an early stage. I think also careful actually with the history that's taught. But this is where he gets a little bit even he gets kind of Platonic in the sense that he's kind of starting to create a ideal sort of educational curriculum, and you have he's talking about having a committee that meets and decides all the sort of knowledge that they should have and stuff. And so
always committees with
exactly. I was just thinking this is so now. However, I should say this is actually an important point. I don't remember picking that point up when I read it. This was a summary that I read. It was a good summary.
Oh, okay.
But it was somebody that I should give them credit. So it was off of Medium. It was by Anurag Shukla. His Knowledge, Self, and Liberation, Unveiling Schopenhauer's Pedagogical Paradigm. That's a nice quick read, but I feel like I remember reading about the committee, but the problem is, honestly, one thing I realize is my translation is really bad. I wish I had a different translation.
I mean, mine's a little hard. It's not.
Yeah, but reading yours, it was when you read excerpts, I was like, that's so much clearer than mine. Yeah. But yeah, anyway.
So I just to where kind of I got to, and there's a paragraph that I'm looking at now about genius. He's talking about genius and philosophy and history, and he's kind of tying it all together in an interesting way. But he says, above all, when it appears as knowledge of the history of philosophy, for to the genius who gazes upon things as a poet does, with pure and loving eyes, and cannot immerse himself too deeply in them, grubbing around in countless strange and perverse opinions, is the most repugnant and inappropriate occupation imaginable. So I feel like, again, he's talking. He seems to be tying the idea of beauty and the grotesque into the process of art and philosophy that he's tying together, which I remember we were talking a little bit about last time, because he was talking about artists and philosophers being the only people who are sort of willing to seek and speak truth.
Well, yeah, because he keeps and I think, I don't know, I feel like he's written about beauty and truth or maybe that's just a trite thing that I'm thinking of now.
Is it?
I don't know. I feel like he did, but I can't recall exactly where he would have.
I don't know if it is trite. It sounds trite, but there's a statement that always rings in my mind that beauty is truth. Mm-hmm. But and I don't know. I think about it a lot. I don't know if I agree with it. I just think it's a wild statement.
Yes, exactly. And one that I feel like a lot of people say.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, he often talks about how that's the philosopher's prerogative is truth. The highest aim is truth. And yeah, I mean, again, I think the big thing that this whole essay is about is cultivating your own genius, which is about sort of shirking societal norms and things like that and following your intuition and you could say your natural instinct, right? Going at nature and stuff. And then kind of what you were saying, using the tools that society has given you, but blending them in a way that is new and isn't just like regurgitating things that have already been done. You're actually, because I mean, this is an interesting thing that I think you see a lot. You see people who are able to play like whatever Slash solos perfectly, but then they can't really write anything of note. And it's like, well, you're great at mimicking this, but where's this really nice solo? You're just putting together all these puzzle pieces, but it doesn't feel like something new. And I think maybe it's hard to describe because, I mean, that's a hard thing to describe. We all understand what it is when we see it, the genius thing. Right. But it's hard to describe what we're talking about because it's you just know it when you see it.
That aspect of it is crazy to me, too. The aspect that, when you're talking about how testing or examination is kind of cutting against the force of genius or even the being able to discern it, because you don't discern genius by testing it. You discern genius by sort of experiencing it and knowing it yourself. It's very strange. I mean, this feels extremely superstitious almost.
Yes. Well, so, it's because I'm thinking like randomly I was watching Salvador Dali interviews last week, and like he was on Dick Cavett, and you just look at him and he seemed like a genius. Right. There's something different about him. And granted, I agree, it's probably played up, especially, during the era that he lived. It was like that was the height of the personality, It's like you could have just a personality. Who knows if Salvador Dali was really like this, but it seems like he was. He gave apparently a lecture with a aquarium on his head or something like that. Or it was a diving, maybe a diving helmet. It was something weird. And then, he like rode around in a convertible with cauliflower. Anyway, this is things you do, Antushka.
Right.
But he's just quirky. But then you also see that his paintings are really cool. I mean, and again, they're cool. I feel like to anybody that even like somebody like me, I feel like know nothing about painting. His is the type that you could just look at and be like, yeah, this is different and interesting.
I notice it with jazz solos too, where certain musicians are able to do extremely adventurous things and go really out and play things that would normally be really dissonant that a poor player couldn't even handle doing. So a bad jazz player wouldn't be able to make those notes sound good.
Right.
And a great player is able to play any note, anytime, and a regular audience is going to listen to it and love it.
Right.
Like, thousands of people would go and see Miles Davis, and he'd be playing the craziest stuff. And it's just like, it's this thing. It's the way that he knows how to engage with that material is completely different than the way I know how to engage with it.
I actually also watched an interview of him on Dick Cavett this last week.
Yeah, he's a crazy guy. I don't know if he's verbally a genius.
No, I mean, he's got an intensity to him.
He's got some good opinions on women, too. Him and Shopenhaur would probably get along.
Yeah, probably. But he said an interesting thing saying it's like, it's not a mistake until I think not the next note, but the note after that. Anyway, think about that one, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, and so I also kind of want to return to this point about what was it? So so he has this interesting thing that he says there are like 4 things that help create culture without realizing it. So these things aren't making culture for the sake of culture; they're doing it for other things. It's kind of interesting. So the first is the businessman. The self-interest of the businessman. This needs the help of culture and helps her in return, though at the price of prescribing her ends and limits.
Whoa.
And so, yeah, so like we must have as much knowledge and education as possible. This implies as great a need as possible for it. This, again, as much production. This, again, as much material wealth and happiness as possible. So it's like, I think it's the desires for things sort of in a way helps culture be made, I guess.
Okay, sure. That makes some sense.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about that last bit, about the business interest. I was with it, and in the end, I don't understand what he means about...
Well, he had been talking about material wealth previously. So it's like the idea is like the purpose of money is just to provide you with sufficient material wealth to have a good life, essentially. All education is detested that makes for loneliness and has an aim above money making and requires a long time. This is, I think, the mentality of the business person. Men look askance on such serious education as mere refined egoism or immoral Epicureanism. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping around. It's probably hard to follow. Yeah. So the second thing that helps culture is the self-interest of the state. So, which requires the greatest possible breadth and universality of culture and has the most effective weapons to carry out its wishes. A highly civilized state generally implies at the present time the task of setting free the spiritual forces of a generation just so far as they may be of use to the existing institution. So this is the other thing, though, is the state only wants a culture to be as great as it is to help the state. Right. So this is, again, it's helping culture be made, but it's not, its aim isn't culture. The third is culture will be favored by all those people who know their own character to be offensive or tiresome and wish to draw a veil of so-called good form over them. So this is where it's like, this is, my translation is so confusing. Basically like the two-faced people. The people have one opinion but won't say them.
And that pushes culture.
Yeah, I guess
but
so.
It also cuts against this genius thing, right? Because if everyone's doing that, nobody's engaging in genius.
Yeah, no. But I guess it's maybe the idea that I'm going to have to cut this out.
I feel like there's one thing I've gotten from Nietzsche is that every time I think he's saying something,
he
seemingly contradicts that exact same thing like 4 paragraphs later. He'll be like, I like apples. And then later he'll be like, and therefore I hate apples.
Let me just read this because it's kind of interesting.
All right.
So in the third place, culture will be favored by all those people who know their own character to be offensive or tiresome and wish to draw a veil of so-called good form over them. Words, gestures, dress etiquette, and such external things are meant to produce a false impression, the inner side to be judged from the outer. I sometimes think that modern men are eternally bored with each other and look to the arts to make them interesting. They let their artists make savory and inviting dishes of them. They steep themselves in the spices of the East and West and have a very interesting aroma after it all. They are ready to suit all palates, and everyone will be served whether he wants something with a good or bad taste, something sublime or coarse, Greek, Chinese, tragedy, or gutter drama. It's almost done. The most celebrated chefs among the moderns who wish to interest and be interested at any price are the French. The worst are the Germans. He's really down on the Germans in all his writings, but especially this one. This is really more comforting for the latter, and we have no reason to mind the French despising us for our want of interest, elegance, and politeness, and being reminded of the Indian who longs for a ring through his nose and then proceeds to tattoo himself.
Nice.
I have no idea what this meant.
You don't know what it means? Where is it? Where is it?
I don't have page numbers.
Which section?
It's, God.
My God.
Section 6, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay. All right. I want to find this. So the Indian wants a ring through his nose, eh?
Yeah, I have no idea. This is the thing. It's like, I think he's saying something at the beginning.
Do Indians even do that?
I don't know, man.
I feel like I don't really associate that with India.
Well, and who knows who he's talking about? He could be talking about Native Americans, or he could be talking about Indians.
Yeah. Okay, so did you read the whole paragraph?
Yeah.
All right, thirdly. Is that right?
Yeah, are you going to read the paragraph?
Yeah,
now?
Why not? It's translation talk.
All right, okay.
Translation talk with plausible deniability AMX.
Okay, all right.
All right, thirdly, culture is promoted by all those who are conscious of possessing an ugly or boring content and want to conceal the fact with so-called beautiful form.
Wow.
Under the presupposition that what is inside is usually judged by what is outside.
This is so different.
Yeah, I know.
It's so different.
Yeah. Let's see if we get to rings and noses. Under the presupposition that what is inside is usually judged by what is outside, the observer is to be constrained to a false assessment of the content through externalities, through words, gestures, decoration, display, ceremoniousness. There's no and there, so sorry. I ended that sentence sort of strangely. Okay. And ceremoniousness. It sometimes seems to me that modern men bore one another to a boundless extent, and that they finally feel the need to make themselves interesting with the aid of all the arts. They have themselves served up by their artists as sharp and pungent repasts. I don't know that word. They soak themselves in all the spices of the Orient and the Occident. And to be sure, they now smell very interesting.
So the Occident is Greek? I haven't heard that phrase, because it's Greek in mine. It's Chinese or Greek in mine.
Oh, that makes sense. Well, because the Occident's the West.
I didn't know that. I've never heard that, actually.
Yeah. Oriental means East, Occidental means West.
Oh, I didn't know
That's why you have, like, Occidental College in L.A.
Gotcha.
The West, yeah.
Wow. I'm an idiot.
Orientation means setting it properly, like, eastward.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so Orient, Occident, they now smell very interesting, smelling as they do of the Orient and the Occident. Now they are suitably prepared for satisfying every taste, and everyone shall have something, whether his inclination be for fresh smelling or foul smelling, for the sublimated or the peasant coarseness, for the Greek or the Chinese, for tragedies or for dramatized lewdness. The most celebrated chefs for these modern men who want to be interesting and interested at any cost are, as is well known, to be found among the French, the worst among the Germans. At bottom, this fact is more consoling to the latter than the former, and let us not hold it against the French in the least if they mock us at precisely because we are uninteresting and lack elegance, and if, when individual Germans desire to be suave and elegant, it reminds them of the Indian who wanted a ring through his nose and demanded to be tattooed.
Okay, it actually is starting to make a little bit of sense.
All right, so what do you get?
So
we need another translation.
Yeah, okay, we got to get another translation. Well, so one thing that happened during this century was Eastern there was the connection between East and West occurred. So you had, I think, a lot of the beginnings of like the translations and the transfer of knowledge occurring between specifically German society and like Indian civilization. And because Shopenhaur, I think it happened even actually earlier, like during Schopenhauer's life, because he, I think, was influenced by Buddhism. Hence the whole pessimistic outlook, right? Life is suffering, etc.
Right.
But so I think that's what he's getting at then, is that you have these people who are well-cultured, these new Europeans well-cultured in the Occident and Orient, as we're saying, the East and West, and is basically it's like, I think what he's talking about is the metropolitan people, and these are the culture makers, because they're the ones that will say that they like something even if they don't. But but in some weird sense, this, like,
true.
you know what I mean? If you can direct this, this, what do you call it? Group of automatons, these drones,
right,
to be directed towards the actual genius, that's what makes the...
I mean, saying you like things even when you don't is an interesting idea, because there's an awful lot of that goes on.
Yes. Yeah, I mean,
and I can't be in people's heads. It's this thing where it's a little bit risky because I'm mind reading, but there's a lot of things I don't think people like as much as they say they do.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I see some of these videos on social media, and I'm just like, of people, and I'm like, do you really believe this? Like, people, anyway, there's this doctor. Actually, I should talk about this, because like I feel like, so there's this doctor who was on TikTok, and he was talking about this new CAR T-cell treatment. And he was like crying about it. He was like, because I've seen people, and I'm like, dude, that is like, first off, I want to know disclosure. Like, do you have any like financial, right, connection to this drug? Because like, you're pushing a medication with a lot of emotional, just baggage that should not be there. So anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent. How did I get on this tangent? Jesus.
People saying they like things that they may not like.
Yeah, well, so, okay, yeah, because you just have fake people. Yes, so I wonder, basically, when he's discussing if he's really believing this. Is he really this emotional, or is he putting it on? And I just can't imagine that. But I don't, in some ways I can't imagine it, but then I also can't imagine it, that they really are that emotional and that they have.
I mean, yeah, I don't know about this doctor. What comes to mind for me is music school, classical music school, where everybody is working really, really hard and talking about all this great stuff, and people sit around, pontificate about Brahms and stuff. Nobody listens to that music, really. I mean, they do, and they go to the concerts and symphonies. But for the most part, most of those people are not listening to that music predominantly. And I'm not even saying they don't like it, but it's taking up a huge amount of their time in terms of what they're practicing and what they're talking about. But when they choose to put on music, it is most likely for most of them pop music or rock music from the last 60 years.
Yes. Well, or yes, yeah, yes. You said pop, yeah. Yeah, no. And also I wonder if they actually like that.
Yeah,
because,
exactly. Same thing. Everybody, talks about some new hit that comes out by whoever.
And you're like, oh, I just need to go listen to this.
And I listen to it, and I'm like, people love this?
Yeah. Or it's just
really?
on a playlist or a radio, and it's just convenient. And it's like, well, it's easier than figuring out.
I mean, I do like the radio. I miss the radio. I feel like the radio has died, basically. But I like how I would learn music, a lot of music, very slowly. Over the course of a year, as the songs would kind of change.
I agree, but
I
think
learn
actually
tons of songs.
This is why I like Spotify so much, though. I think they're better. I think they're the best about helping you find new music and kind of acting like a radio. I mean, obviously Pandora's basically a radio station, but
right. And what would Nietzsche say?
Nietzsche would say, "What the heck are you guys talking about? Let's get back to me."
Yeah, let's get back to me. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, so to just put a cap on this, and then I have another thing that I want to talk about.
Nice.
So yeah, I think that's what because then that's why he's saying that the French are the best at this. They're the most posh and the polite. It's like
right. So he's kind of like underhanded in a funny way too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, he's making fun of everybody, and
the French are the best at lying about what they don't actually like.
Although I think that's kind of not true anymore. I feel like the French are known for their blunt honesty,
right,
these days. So the fourth and final thing is, where is it? It's kind of a self-interest of science and the peculiar nature of her servants, the learned. And then he goes on to this long thing about the professor, philosopher. And this is actually a good sort of segue into the thing I wanted to talk about. So I wanted to talk about a specific section from Anurag Shukla's Medium post. The Knowledge, Self, and Liberation, Unveiling Shopenhauer's Pedagogical Paradigm. I'll try to remember to link this too. It's nice, yeah. Because he summarizes really nicely and succinctly Schopenhauer's criticism of the educational system and describing sort of these individuals that are basically prevalent in society right now. And so he said, so here's the start of the quote. Schopenhauer criticizes an educational system where ideas are prioritized over real life experiences, leading individuals to conform to prevailing beliefs imposed by authorities, social classes, churches, and governments. He elaborates on 13 traits commonly observed in individuals produced by such systems. Firstly, they tend to be cowardly, avoiding speaking the truth and favoring simplicity. Secondly, they exhibit short-sightedness, focusing on immediate matters while neglecting the broader and universal perspectives. Thirdly, they possess a conventional taste, finding comfort in the familiar rather than seeking the extraordinary or genuine. Fourthly, they lack empathy and are not immune to exploring areas that others find unsettling. They're not immune to that. Fifth, they suffer from self-doubt and underestimate their own worth. Sixth, they exhibit blind loyalty to their teachers and leaders, often imitating their flaws while diminishing their virtues. Seventh, they commonly follow the path of becoming compilers, commentators, and index makers, lacking original thought. Think how many review articles there are. Eighth, they fear boredom, unable to grasp the value of leisure for deep thinking. Ninth,
is that all of us now?
Yes, exactly. Ninth, they are motivated by the need for sustenance, using truth as a means of personal advancement or favor with influential figures. 10th, they revere their fellow professors and feared their disapproval. 11th, some are driven by vanity, seeking recognition and establishing their own domains of study. 12th, some approach their work as a form of entertainment, enjoying the unraveling of intellectual puzzles without delving into profound depth. And I guess there's a 13th.
Is that what we're doing here?
I think we're trying to get profound depth.
Right.
Over a 42 episode. I mean, what is this, 43 episodes?
It's true. And we're not very entertaining.
Exactly. Shopenhauer mentions the impulse towards justice as a potential motive. Oh, interesting. Okay, so anyway, though.
As a potential motive for what?
So lastly, Shopenhauer mentions the impulse towards justice as a potential motive, acknowledging its metaphysical nature and expressing hope for its prevalence among some professors. I think a potential motive for just people. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, in terms of work, I think. Because it's 12th, some approach their work as a form of entertainment, enjoying the unraveling of intellectual puzzles without delving into profound depths. And lastly, Schopenhauer mentions the impulse towards justice as a potential motive. Okay. So I just thought that was a nice list, though. He summarizes it in a much more succinct way than Nietzsche does.
Nice.
Of course,
every time Nietzsche starts a list, I get excited, and then it's like I never get to the end of the list knowing what all the there's three things, and he says one thing, and I kind of get it, and the second thing it's like I'm losing it, and the third thing it's like, did he even say a third thing?
No, literally, he does exactly that when he's like, there's four things, and then he goes through the first three, and then he's like, here I must digress a little. He explicitly says that, and for 2 long paragraphs, and then gets back to it at the end.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So exactly. I think he's just describing all of us today.
Right.
I mean, it's just.
So a question I have about it is, do you think that the work has genius in it and is timeless? Like the idea that Bach is still good today, whatever, 400 years later, or
not quite.
Yeah, not quite. That Bach. So scratch the Bach thing. Don't worry about it. We need to find someone a little older.
Sorry, people. It's almost 12 o'clock. All right, you give us a break. It's almost midnight. That it is actually timeless, and so these things they're talking about were true then and are true today, and that's the genius of them. Or is it that stuff hasn't really changed? I think it's going. Well, that's a good question. I don't know. But I think what you were saying about how the genius things are timeless, I think that you might have just hit it on the head. Because he talks about that kind of thing a lot, too, of just like how we're all sort of aiming at immortality when immortality's kind of timeless,
Yeah.
In the Superman that stands, there's only a few individuals who can really understand history and actually make it work for them.
Right.
And those are like the Supermen.
Right.
The Ubermensch.
Yeah.
You're a mensch.
You're a mensch.
You're a mensch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Have we done it?
I don't know. The timeless thing, the timeless versus things haven't changed is Like, I'm having lots of thoughts about it.
No. So,
because I think that people ultimately aren't that different than they were even thousands of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you read the Bible or you read old Buddhist texts or something, and you imagine the world is extremely different. And in some ways, it is different. There's no iPhones, there's no cars. But I think basically people are probably about the same.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk to a guy at that time, he's going to have the same kind of wants and desires and needs and thoughts that a guy is having now.
And
basically.
What are those? List them. No.
List them. All right, so it's 5 things.
Just kidding. Yeah, no, I think you're right. But, and so, yeah, I mean, maybe that's why the genius thing, it hits
so
at
the
whatever
timeless thing, it isn't even about, it's timeless. It's not that they're reading the future. It's that they are keenly perceptive about what is happening in society. And this is the sort of philosopher bit about being willing to speak truths, because a lot of people don't want to say sort of what's going on.
Right.
At a base level. And so being willing to say what is going on is probably going to end up being timeless, because that's what's going to keep going on.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. And also, I think it speaks to some of like again, I guess you could say the fickleness of pop culture. Is like most of it doesn't last and will be sort of seen as laughable in maybe just a few years.
I think about that a lot. I always wonder what if anything will last from today. Like 50 years, 100 years, 200 years.
Probably
it's hard to know, but
probably Joe Rogan.
Not Joe Rogan, you said?
I said probably Joe Rogan.
Well, he does. The way that stuff is cataloged and backed up now, I feel like both has a lot of potential to stay around. But if technology shifts enough, we also have a problem where, if we stop using servers and chips and things like that, the information won't be able to be read anymore. It's like old reel-to-reel tapes.
Yeah.
Who even has a way of playing those things?
Well, it's true, but I mean, I guess that's why, like, if you digitize it, though. I mean, obviously, if the computer makes a big shift in how it functions, but right now, I think, if you get it into bits, that's pretty universal.
Right.
But no, I hear what you're saying, though. It's but somebody unplugs the internet, then it's all gone, right? So, I mean,
like that South Park episode.
I didn't see that one.
Oh, the internet goes out for everybody, and the kids are like, "Wait, why don't you just restart the router?" And like it's the U.S. government, and they're like, "What?" And there's a giant router at the Pentagon. They just push the reset button.
And they need like a giant pencil to push it in that like tiny button.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, no, but I mean obviously that's a point though.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe he won't last actually. I mean, this is why actually like Da Vinci and I think the traditional thought was that sculpture was the highest form of art, because they were judging it by the longevity.
Right.
Or actually, sorry, architecture is the mother of all arts because of that, because it's, obviously the macro stuff. And yeah, it's true. It's like what are the oldest things? They're architectural.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Well,
I think Joe Rogan's problem is
pottery.
He's not producing that much of his own.
I was just going to say.
Sorry.
I just, because I said something stupid, I just want to correct myself. Obviously, the oldest things that we find are like tools and stuff, but in terms of structures, large structures.
Sure.
I don't know.
I don't think it was that stupid. It wasn't like
it was kind of
stupid.
I should be flogged.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were you saying about Joe Rogan?
Oh, I was saying that like his podcast, he's not saying that, he's not producing tons of his own thoughts through that show. He's talking to other people and primarily giving a space for other people's thoughts,
which is, I mean, it's brilliant because he's like the liner or the binding.
Right. It is brilliant. I mean, the platform is amazing. It's not that. It's the longevity. Once he's stopped doing it for 20 years.
Yeah, it's a good. Well, no, I think it'll have longevity for the same reason why, like, I still watch Johnny Carson clips or Dick Cavett clips.
Sure.
Because I'm like, wow, look at this snapshot in time.
Yeah.
I mean, he's basically the Johnny Carson of our era.
Yeah.
I would say. Sense. Yeah, I would say most definitely. Whether he realizes it or not. I'm sure he realizes that.
Yeah.
He must.
He knows.
Yeah.
He knows. Yeah.
Which means Ari Shaffir is the whatever. What would he be? He's the Dean Martin.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of. He's always drunk. Everybody thinks he's drunk. Yeah. So what are we talking about anymore, man?
I don't know. So, yeah, how do you want to wrap up Nietzsche, at least for now?
It's a good question because I could talk about Nietzsche forever, man.
Right.
No, I don't know. No, so a few just closing thoughts. One interesting thing is he was like 30 when he wrote this. Yeah, because he was born in 1844, and this was published in 1744. So he was pretty young, actually. Could you write something like this, you think?
Yeah, easy. Come on. Silly question.
Do you ever think about this? Not. Do you ever think about this kind of thing? Though it's like, what have I done at the age of 27?
Yeah, I think about that all the time, and I think, wow, I have a lot of work to do.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah,
so that was one thing, right?
No.
So that I was thinking about how much we suck, basically.
Yeah.
And the next thing was. Well, yeah, I guess I just think that point of how just current everything still is. Actually, no. So the last point that I think what we should actually make, bring up, is the two. Did we talk about the two maxims for teachers already? I can't even remember.
Maybe, I don't know.
Because if we didn't, we should.
Let's talk about them.
Okay, so because this is basically what he says Shopenhaur did for him, because it's called Shopenhaur as educator.
Right.
Is the idea that I guess even he might have actually disagreed with Shopenhaur later, but he just really liked everything about him, and what we already talked about. I think more in the first episode, but this is just or the last episode rather, 6.5. So he's saying the sort of two maxims. The first demands that the teacher should find out at once the strong point in his pupil and then direct all his skill and will, all the the moisture and all the sunshine.
We did talk about this, yes.
Yes, yeah, I thought we did. Okay, so
but here, let's keep going.
Well, and then the second thing is recap, to basically bring all the qualities that already exist up higher, So you find what's like their best quality and really nurture that, and then bring all the other qualities up as well. So I just thought, yes, I thought we talked about it, but I just want to bring point to it.
Yeah,
if we didn't.
Nice.
Okay, I think we're probably drifting away at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you want to do next?
So I haven't given it that much thought. I have a few ideas.
Okay.
I want to do the Hildegard thing at some point.
Yeah, we should. It's just, so I have her book. It's another encyclopedia, and those have
that's not fun.
Those haven't been very great.
The other thing I thought would be fun, because it's actually pretty easy read, is Milton Friedman's Free to Choose.
Oh, sure.
It's like economics, but it's not real mathy. It's more concepts.
Yeah, no, that works. What's it about?
He goes through talking about things that people don't really understand, like what is a market. He talks about what he says caused the Great Depression, which is not what other people talked about, not what other people say it is. He talks about price and government and crisis. It's like libertarianism light. He's not as intense as Rothbard or any of the anarchists. He's not an anarchist.
Well, I was going to say, should we read them? I'd be down for Milton, but this sounds actually less like, is there better, or is there better? Sorry.
Milton Friedman's good.
Yeah, this I agree. This one sounds kind of boring for some reason. I don't know why.
It's mostly the way he writes is so nice. It's like it's nice to read it. It's like, oh, I like this guy.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll take your word for it. Sorry,
we could go more intense. Okay. So another thought: if we really want to get intense, we could read Mussolini's Doctrine of Fascism.
Jeez.
That one's only like 8 pages.
I don't know, man. Okay.
Okay, no. All right. That's a no. All right, I got it.
I mean,
we don't have to agree with it. I mean,
I know, but it's like I feel like it's not exactly the same, but it's getting close to like Hitler's Mein Kampf, isn't it?
Well, I have that in the folder too.
Oh, good, great. Yeah, I'm not reading that. God.
Okay.
Jesus
I also have the
Christ.
Unabomber manifesto in this folder.
Yeah, that's another one that we just have to be careful because it's like.
What if you agree with it?
Yeah, exactly. No, I think he actually does make some interesting points about.
Wait, have you read it?
No, but I've heard this.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's actually becoming kind of like I guess a trite premise for a joke of just like, the Unabomber. I was reading the Unabomber manifesto, and he was making a lot of good points. Now hear me out. Kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we could do. Rothbard's The Case Against the Fed, but that's a little bit like specific.
The Federal Reserve?
Yeah.
I'd be down for that.
Fudge the Fed. Or we could do Mises, Human Action, which is more of a big philosophical text that is like a precursor to libertarianism. Human Action is a really important text.
Yeah, we probably should read some Mises, but is that going to be really boring? Let's do the Fed Reserve. So would the Federal Reserve thing be a 1-episode thing?
It's like 150 pages.
Oh, so multiple. Definitely.
Yeah, I would say 2 to 3. It depends on if we want to do the whole thing or we want to just do a bit of it.
Okay.
He starts off by talking about what money is. That's an interesting conversation.
Yeah, let's just maybe break that into 3. Do like 50, 50, and 50.
Cool. Gets into fractional reserve banking.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's the whole thing about you know the movie It's a Wonderful Life?
Yes.
And they're like, "Where's my money?" And he's like, "Well, your money's with him."
Yeah.
And your money's with him. And I love
Exactly.
There's a comedian I listen to who's also a libertarian, and he's like, "You know what? That's called fraud."
God.
It's like in the movie, it makes perfect sense, and everyone goes like, "Well, that makes a lot of sense." And you're like, "No, wait a minute."
No, in the movie it's wholesome.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, wait, what's it called again?
The book is The Case Against the Fed.
The Case Against the Fed. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
By Murray Rothbard.
Oh, Murray.
Yep. Now, you didn't like him last time, so.
Yeah. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, maybe the hatred will keep growing. He'll become a nanny. I'll get you, Murray.
That'll drive our listenership like last time. Maybe that's what it was.
Right, maybe but I think that they agree with you. I think it's my points they don't like.
Well, we don't know. I mean, you were posting in the anarcho-capitalist subreddit, though. That was like that and the libertarian were the main.
True. Yeah.
I think most people probably agree with you.
Maybe.
They think I'm a statist dweeb.
Dweeb.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Which I might be.
Yeah. I mean, at least you have the lingo, right? You know that they're going to call you a statist.
Oh, yeah, dude. I'm a total statist, for sure. For sure.
Like, I love the states so much.
Dude, no, but what's funny is listening to libertarian or an anarchist argue about the border. I'm like, what did you
Oh, yeah, wait. Have you been listening to those arguments?
Yeah.
Well, because some of them are really into it all of a sudden for some reason.
Yeah, like they're like, we need to secure our border. It's like, you're an anarchist.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, what's this we business? Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, yeah. Cool. All right.
All right. That was good.
Yeah, so I'm going to return us. Should I wait to return us to Nietzsche?
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, I'm already thinking after your episode.
Let's do at least 2 non-Nietzsches.
Yeah.
Let's have it not be just the Nietzsche podcast.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah, you're like, wow.
You're right.
And everything in between just won't be as good. And the whole time you'll have this
dude, why do I love doing Nietzsche for the podcast so much? I think one of
See
our
if you
last
can get
Nietzsche,
him on, you know?
Dude. That'd be crazy. I just asked him how long it took him to grow that mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, what are we even doing? What are we even doing?
Right.
Oh, yeah, no, I was saying, I think one of our last Nietzsche episodes was a night cast also.
Was it? Nice.
We might have to make this also.
Nietzsche, Nietzsche after dark. We need intense music then too.
That's true. Cool. Okay. Well, anyway, we should probably end this.
All right. Sounds good.
Sweet.
All right. Bye.
See ya.